Hey kids, welcome to my garage studio. It's lovely, isn't it? I got sleds and bicycles. All right, today we're going to be doing some coil pots. Coil pots have some advantages over, plus side, advantages over pinch pots in that you can make them much bigger. However, we're somewhat limited in the size that we're doing this year because we're using the plastic bags to keep our clay from getting contaminated. So this is less of an issue on this one. More important issue is that you can control the form much easier. You're not stuck with just making kind of inverted dome shapes. Specifically, you're going to be making organic forms. The difference between an organic form and a geometric forms are the ones that have names. They're the regular forms, like a sphere, a cylinder, a cube, etc. With coil pots, we're going to be making organic, so it's kind of the opposite of that. Those are the ones that have more flowy shapes, like an organism. You know, animals and plants aren't straight lines and 90-degree angles. Now, specifically with the organic forms, the way that we're going to be making that organic form is with the line of the pot. Now remember, the line of a pot is its profile. So if I have like a pinch pot where I need to look at the paper, not the screen. Pretend that's a pinch pot. Geez, I'm bad at this. Okay. You know, this could be considered kind of half of a sphere. So this would be, not as I've drawn it, but this would be a geometric form. If we made the line a complex curve instead of a simple curve, so this would be a simple curve. Complex curve starts one way and then changes and goes another way. So what if we made like a vase form? Now we've got a complex line, and this is an organic form. So organic forms have complex curves to them. And then there's a third advantage for coil pots, and that is the cool coil pot texture. Now I have an example. The only example of a coil pot I could find in my house is this, and it does not. First of all, it's not very large. It's bigger than a pinch pot, but not by much. It doesn't really have an organic form. The overall form is roughly a cylinder. The only thing it has going for it is the cool texture. So you can see the coils. Coils are rolls of clay, right? Like snakes. Like when you were a kid and you made snakes out of Play-Doh, you were already practicing for making coil pots. And because I can see the coils, it makes a really neat texture. Now on the inside, you notice the texture is smooth. Okay, and that is important because smoothing the texture between the coils on the inside of the pot helps to hold it together. So that brings me to the disadvantages, the negative side. First off, these take time. It's not nearly as quick as a pinch pot. Some people find them tedious, you know, but it's an important forming technique to learn because you can make things with it that you can't make with other techniques. Because it takes time, there's a tendency for people to let their clay dry out too much, and when they go to join them, they have a discrepancy between dry clay and they're adding wet clay to it. And even if there's a small discrepancy there, that can lead to cracks. So they are prone to cracks if you're not really good with your moisture management. So moisture management, keeping the clay wet, is very important. If it dries out, you're done. There's no way to add clay to dry clay. So those are the two main disadvantages. And of course, we can definitely overcome those disadvantages. All right, I'm going to switch view on you now. I hope this works. Let's see, how do I want this? That's not what I wanted. Switch. Now you're up in my rafters. Hi. Hope you don't get motion sickness from this. So let's see. This way is upright. So I don't know. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I really don't know. I just stuffed my phone up into the rafters of the garage. You can see I've got clay out over here that is drying out to remix. This is my reclaim. There's my reclaim bucket there. You can see my fuzzy slippers. That's a great view, huh? You can see I've got a bucket of water over here. That's what I wash my hands with. And then I've got my plastic clay here ready to go. So here's a little cup of water with a sponge, and I've got my trusty toothbrush. Because you're going to be building this incrementally, slipping and scoring, you're going to get a lot of practice at slipping and scoring. So, rolling a coil, you've done this before, right? Now you can't all do it just in your hands like this because it gets to be, you know, it's swinging around all over the place. So you got to put it on the table and roll it. And the challenge, the important part of this is consistency. Now right now this is thicker than my thumb, so it's definitely too thick to use. But as I'm rolling it, you know, I roll one side and the other side isn't keeping up. It's going to start making it uneven. So I'm just going to break it apart into a more manageable chunk. Another important thing to consider while doing this is that the table is absorbing water. So as soon as you start rolling it on the table, you're working against the clock. Now, you can go a little bit thicker, a little bit thinner. You know, people have their own preferences. The important thing is consistency. My preference is a little bit thicker than a pencil. Now to start this, I could just start with like a disc of clay, and that could be the base, and then start building up on top of there. But if this is going to be purely a coil pot, then I'm going to slip and score one side of this coil, and then just start rolling it into a spiral. And this will act as the base of my pot. And now that I have a little base here, I'm going to smudge that together on what will be the inside of the pot. Make it nice and smooth. Now I'm using local clay. This is wild clay that I dug up, so it's not going to be as smooth, but that's all right. Now at this point I could keep going out, but I don't want a wide base. I want a narrow base and then go out, then in. I'm going to make like a vase type of form. So at this point I'm ready to start building slightly upwards. So instead of joining it on the side of the coil, I'm going to just join it a little bit up. And this is how you control the line, by the placement of your coils. So, placement of your coils. And then I've got one layer, so I'm going to smudge that together. Do not try to build layers and layers and layers and then smudge, because you can see as I'm smudging, it's kind of pinching the clay a little bit, making it move outwards. If I tried to do that on more than one layer at a time, that would move the line of my pot outwards and I wouldn't be able to control it. So now I've finished one coil. Got that cool coily texture on the outside. My next coil is going to start right where that one left off. So let's set that aside and start. It's too dusty on this side. There we go. And start rolling my coils, my next coil. So once I've got my next coil, it's going to start right where this one left off. So I'm just going to overlap them and blend them together there. So you won't even be able to see where one ends and the next one begins. And, whoops, slip and score. There we go. And just start building. Now I'm building slightly outwards on this, so my line is going to continue to go outwards. And smudgy, smudge, smudge, blend, blend, blend them all together. Make it nice and smooth on the inside. If they're not smooth together on at least one side, there won't be enough surface area between the coils for them to be joined. Now let me show you what I mean about that. Pretend I slice this in half and I'm looking at a cross section of it. The cross section of it would look like this, right? Not even in view. I'm working kind of almost out of view, aren't I? It would look like this. So where those circles, where those coils are joined is just a very fine line. But if I smudge one half of that together, then it increases that surface area where they're joined quite significantly. Now you can smudge together both sides and have a smooth pot inside and out, you know, and then you have very even, consistent wall thickness as well. So that's also an option. Now, also, when I'm building this, the placement of the coils determines where the line goes. This is confusing for some people. So if I wanted this to start going outwards, I would place the next coil slightly outwards, and you can see that the line would go that way. If I wanted to go to narrow, then the coil would go inside the previous coil, then my line would curve that way. Okay, now I'm going to show you a couple other things, and then I'm going to put it on high speed so you don't have to watch me make this whole pot. Now keep in mind also, because we're working on those little boards and the plastic bags, you can't make yours real wide. A bowl form would not be a great option for this. I'm saying, you know, a mug form or a bottle or a vase, and you're only going to be able to make yours probably 8 inches tall like that and still have them fit in the bag. So it's just one of the limitations that we're working with this year. So this one ended, and that's where the next one's going to go. But I don't just have to keep going round and round and round. There's nothing wrong with that, but if I wanted to make it more interesting, I could go zoop, zoop, zoop. It's important to make the zoop sounds as you go as well. Zoop. This will make an interesting line design within the texture of the pot. Maybe I'll make it go zoop. Look at that. And now, look off that little piece there. Now, which side looks better? That side looks better. No, that side looks better. I'm going to smudge these together before I join it. And now when I join it, the end of this coil is going to be the beginning of that coil. Smooth those together. Did I slip and score? Yeah, I did. And now, I can have a neat design inside of my pot. Some of your coils don't even have to be coils necessarily. If I wanted to fill in an area, or if I had a gap in my design, I might even just do a little ball of clay. So adding variety to my coils will make it more interesting. But always, always keeping intentionally aware of your line. So I still wanted this to go outwards, so I'm going to squeeze this just a little bit so that my line is still going outwards. And once I get it to just a little bit higher than this, then I'm going to start making it back inwards. So we're working with intention on this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and switch. Oh, I'm upside down. All right, so I finished. Let me show you what I made. I made this vase. It has an interesting texture because of the direction of the coils going all freestyle and funky. It's got a nice complex curve to the line. The line isn't just going in one direction. It goes in and out and then back in. It's an organic form. And it's definitely bigger than I could make with pinch pots. Now, before I finish, I want to show you one other thing. Some people think that they can kind of take a shortcut and they make a bunch of rings. And they try to stack the rings. Let me get a wider view. There we go. So they make a bunch of rings and then they just say, okay, we're going to start with this one and slip and score and put that one on, and then slip and score and put that one on, and then slip and score and put that one on. The problem is you have no control over the line. If this one's a little bit smaller than this one, the line goes in. If the next one's a little bigger, the line abruptly goes out, and so on. So in the end, they end up with a form that has less of a line and more of a scribble. So don't do this. Bad. Instead, make sure that you are keeping control over your line. That whatever direction the clay is going, that is going that way intentionally. So to review, your coil pots are going to be bigger than a pinch pot. Okay, that's a pretty easy threshold to meet on this. It's going to have an organic form with a complex curve to the line. It can have the coil texture showing on the outside, or if you don't like that and you want to make it smooth on the inside and the outside, that's fine, but you must smooth at least the inside. Okay, one side, the inside, has to be smooth together. It's not optional. And take your time. I actually rushed this one a little bit, and you can see how it's kind of a little bit droopy right there. The line over here is nice and smooth. The line over here is a little bit not smooth. And that's because as I was building up, the weight of the clay up here was pushing down the clay down there. So take your time. Don't let it. If you're building it too quickly, you're gonna sabotage your effort. And make sure that you don't get cracks by smoothing together the inside and by keeping it from drying out too quickly. And with that, I am finished with this demo, and I hope you have some ideas of what you're going to do for your project. I will see you in class.